Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 46 of Cognitive. Welcome back, everybody. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm still in a kind of re-entry phase, but I have to say now I've passed from the stresses of re-entry to just a more happy boredom. Nothing really is happening in my life, that I'm just sitting here in the afterglow of a very pleasant time up north with the Knitmores and seeing Lexicom again and all the various things on the way down and up, because I am a shameful hotel creature. I was thinking about it before and thinking, I'm really easy. I love staying at hotels. The more chain, the better. Like, in other words, a predictable hotel. And I was thinking about that, it is a little crazy how much pleasure I got from not sleeping all night at the Sheraton. What is that, a 4 Points, I think, in Bakersfield, because they had all the noise. So it's very cheap right now in terms of points. And barely sleeping again in Paso Robles for reasons I can't figure out because the bed was so comfortable. But I just have this thing about I like the occasional quiet night at a hotel. And I tell you that because I'm already planning my next ones. One of the joys of re-entry is once I finally get over the first shock of what my life is like day to day when I'm home, I almost always start planning my next vacation. So I'm looking at that, and I don't think it's a coincidence that I made reservations for Sunnybank and for a weekend in Ventura, even though I will be working. I'll be working from a hotel room. And I looked into hotels in Sacramento because it made me happy to do that. What I'll actually do about Sac, I don't know. But anyway, so re-entry, it's still going on. Nevertheless, I'm going to resist the urge to call this episode something like Re-entry Part Duh. So your comments are very, very welcome. Either comment on the blog to this podcast at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, or you can go to our group on Ravelry, which leads me to say that I did not post the notes for 45 on Ravelry yet, I don't believe. So I apologize. I'll try and get those up there. But you can comment there or on the Ravelry group. What else? Well, let's see. Got more spam because I gave a thumbs up to Biden on some miscellaneous post. So that leads me to say, no, I'm not adding you to my followers groups on social media. Please follow me on cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or on Ravelry. I get these spam accounts trying to add me, and they're just hilarious. The name on the account is totally different from the name of the owner, culturally, gender-wise, all sorts of things. Yeah, I'm sort of tired of those guys. My social media is very private because of what I do for a living. So there we go. Speaking of what I do for a living, somebody said to me today, wow, that was amazing. I recognized this X in your last episode. No, you didn't. I fictionalize, guys. I'm required to. So when you hear me talking, I'll say this about every 5 episodes, I think. When you hear me talking about a patient, I'm fictionalizing because I have to, but also it's not nice to do anything like that. If you think that you're hearing me talk about anybody or you're thinking it's yourself, no, get over it. It's not. You don't know anybody I've been talking about, whether you're a friend or whatever. No, you're not recognizing yourself. There is a certain work of fiction going on here. It keeps us all safe. Okay. But anyway, I did enjoy that because I thought, in a way, that tells you you're hitting the nail on the head, that I spend a lot of time trying to think of ways to talk about common human experience. And that might be why some of the episodes' content will sound a little familiar to some of the people who listen, because these are general problems. I'm not picking up unique and individual problems here. That's part of the goal when I talk about the strategies and I tell stories about, alleged people, I'm fictionalizing, because the goal is to make you realize everybody's got the same problems you do. You're really not all that different. And yeah, some people have diagnoses, some people don't, but having a diagnosis just means there's a shorthand. If I know your diagnosis, that I would use talking to another professional so they would know your symptoms. Having a diagnosis doesn't make you weird or strange or frankly out of the norm most of the time. So I wanted to say that, though, because somebody made me sit up and take notice by saying that to me this week. I hope you guys aren't worrying about that. In the warm thanks department, I wanted to thank our own Betty H-S. I don't know if I have her permission to say her name on here. Betty posted about getting the electronic COVID card for the state of California. I don't know if other states have this, but I put the link in the show notes under warm thanks for this. Betty kept talking about how she has her electronic California vaccination card, and I thought she does. And I looked and missed it the first time. The second time I found it right away. And I now have my own electronic vaccination card, which is a QR code that I can show on my phone and anybody can read with a QR reader. And it's also just it states underneath it that I have the vaccine. Very easy to get, very effective. I'm very, very happy about it. What is on my hooks and needles? The short answer, too much. Too much. I started something new. I started my Franken socks. They're not in my show notes because I was out somewhere. I can't think where I was. And I said, I'm going to need knitting. Oh yeah, when I went to get my shot. And I said, I'm going to need knitting. And I don't want to take the sweater with me. It's a lot to haul along. And also, I don't want to get in the middle of something and have to interrupt it to go talk to the doc. So I started Franken socks. I realized that I did not have any Halloween yarn, and then realized, no, but I've got a lot of odds and ends, particularly in the rediscovered stash from the living room that I mentioned last time. And I thought, Halloween, good time for Franken socks. I love these. I've made a few pairs of them in my time. One actually survived. The others unraveled a bit. So last time I worked it out and got everything to stay together, because I tend to do them as the tops, the legs are 6 stripes, and then the instep tend to be offset matching colors in some way, and the heels are usually matching, and I have a lot of fun with these. And they also go really fast. That knitting a stripe, I usually knit 2 inches at the top. I knit 20 rows in 1-1 ribbing, and I'll use the same color for that. And then I'll do 10 rows each in different colors down the leg. And then I'll choose something that matches for the heels on both socks, and the stripes match on both socks. Then the insteps, I tend to do with stuff that I have a lot of left over, and I will look for a way to make them match, whether it's the same yarn company's pattern but in different colorways, or it's 2 insteps in different shades of green, even if they're different yarns, things like that. So I have a lot of fun with these, and I thought, yeah, it really is time for some Franken socks. I can't even identify what I've got as the rib because I don't recognize it. I think it's a Canadian yarn I bought years ago before traveling out to Sunnybank in like 2015 and made socks of, and I have no idea where they are. But anyway, it's gorgeous. So I'm working on that, and then I've got underneath it some Dizzy Blonde Studios, which may not be a super wash, maybe a regular, but I don't care. It's going to be the next stripe. Okay, so I did start that. That's not in my notes yet because I've only got like 3 rows. Wild Lettuce Shawl, no love. Twin Faces Vest is home again. And from showing no interest in it whatsoever, she's like, are you working on my sweater? So that made me happy. I looked at it and said, okay, it started out very narrow on the size 5 needles, and this is worsted weight yarn. And I used a size 5 for the ribbing at the waist. And that worked really well. And then I took it up to size 7, and the thing expands because it's in stockinette. So stockinette's going to be wider than the 1/1 rib anyway, and then the bigger needles. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, do I just decrease slowly? Do I add a few more rows, decreasing 1 inch under each arm so it doesn't look too obvious on the front, and just take it in 2 inches? Do I count on the armholes to take it in a lot? Because armholes usually do tighten it up. And the other possibility is, do I go down a needle size without in any way otherwise shrinking it or, knitting stitches together? So I'm toying with all those ideas. I really doubt I'm going to go to the size 6 needles. I think that's just going to look too obvious. Okay, the temperature blanket is caught up. That was happy. And it's in a really nice phase right now. We're in all this, I believe, canary yellow, yes, because it's actually been in the 70s here. High 70s, incredibly nice. Breezy in high 70s, which is nice. We have a high wind warning for the next 48 hours, so that should be pretty interesting to see what goes on up here. The hand-spun brick. Well, we're separated, as I mentioned, for the arms, and now I got through the alpaca. I have a little bit left, and on the arms I'm going to add 2 more rows of it. But I decided to not catch the arms up because I didn't feel like pulling the size 9 needles out of the body so that I could do more stripes on, more stitches on the arms. So I thought, I've done that a few times now. I've stopped the main body and caught the arms up on the alpaca so that it matches pretty well. And then I did the thing I should have done in the first place. I went to yarn.com, which is webs, and I bought 2 more sets of Addy Turbos in the size 9, 40 inch, I think I got. Are they 40? Yeah, 40 inches. I almost always use 40 inches because on the arms I will use magic loop. I know there's a lot of ways you can do it, and I happen to like magic loop. So, yeah, it's true. Talk about lazy. I'm just going to add those needles to the arms. I'm just probably going to add those 2 stripes because I may be striping in the silver gray as well. So I do want to keep the arms apace with the body. This is a slower way to make a sweater, but it's very satisfying because, I already took about 20 rows off the arms by doing them with the alpaca, and they look great. And so now I'm into the silver, which is BFL silk, as it turns out, and I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. This is from Village Spin and Weave. I bought it when they still had a brick and mortar shop. And this sweater just looks so good. I'm so happy. Every time I show it to somebody, they go, oh my God, that's beautiful. What worked kind of intentionally and accidentally, and I hadn't thought much about it. I just thought I found the effect pleasing. The top is this beautiful kind of, I don't know what to call it, a mulberry red or a dark barn red. And it's yak merino. And then the stripe of alpaca has plied in with it a yak silk ply, 1 ply of yak silk against 2 of the black alpaca. And that yak silk starts at a dark cherry red and goes down to a silvery gray. And of course, below the broad band of alpaca at the chest, you've got the actual pure silvery gray. And it makes for a really gorgeous transition. I know it sounds odd. I'm awfully glad I didn't do a fade with this. I like the effect of the stripe. I may live to feel differently about that. I understand what stripes do. The theory is that the tinier your stripes, the less it makes you look wide. Broad stripes make you look wide. And guys, I just don't care. I am so in love with this sweater. It is going apace. Now, I was comparing it to my brick that I made in Malabrigo last year. And I don't have any notes about the body on the brick. I seem to have followed the instructions pretty precisely. This body, I am at about 46 rows, and the instructions say 89 rows, or whatever you want for length. I'm surprised if I did 89 rows last time, because this one is not going to make 89 rows. It's pretty long on me now. I am just deeply enjoying it. Who knew, and I thank the Knitmores for this, who knew that knitting a sweater out of your hand spun could be so satisfying, but especially, wow, using your own fiber animals is a wonderful, wonderful feeling. These are not colors I would normally pick for myself, but that's one reason I did this. If you leave me alone, I go to stained glass hues, and I particularly go to greens and blues. And I thought it was a nice change of pace. I can wear that red. It makes me look a little pale in the picture, but I can wear that red next to my face, and so that's why it's at the top, because I can wear the red. Black next to my face kind of washes me out too much. Silver next to my face kind of disappears. So I really like what's happening here, and I'm enjoying this to pieces. That also was a plug. I'm looking at my favorite resources, which are Lisa Susie Yarns and Webs, especially for supplies. So that's a plug for Webs too. I bought those 2 more size 9s for Addy Turbo needles, and now I just feel like I can do sleeves and the body all at the same time. Depends on how much metal I'm willing to have jangling around as I hold the sweater. No work in Dizzy Blondes. That's at a dead stall right now. And that brings us on to a strategy. This one is my own, but it fits in well, I think, with distress tolerance. And this is one I think of fondly as sword versus shield, a user's guide, as I call it. We've talked about Wise Mind, that when you're using DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy effectively, you're in Wise Mind, which means you're balancing your rational mind with your emotional mind because you need input from both. And the next question becomes, I'm under attack, what do I do? DBT has a solution for this under interpersonal skills, and I thought of putting this with interpersonal skills, but because of the Wise Mind intersect there, I thought, well, I'll say it here, maybe we'll come back to it. One of the causes of distress, of course, is the feeling of being attacked by another person verbally. And I like to think that when you're dealing with this, you have the option of using your sword or using your shield. And the sword shield logic is a way of doing another strategy, which is the acronym accepts, the E. Separate your emotion from the actual problem. The actual problem you have is somebody is attacking you. I don't mean physically, obviously. And your emotion is hurt and shock and surprise. And that's a moment when most people draw a sword, that they pull their weapon and start fighting back, kind of blindly. And so I was talking to a patient about this, and I realized that, oh my goodness, this is really a story in Arthurian literature, and this is where Sir Kay and Sir Lancelot exchange armor. After Lancelot realizes that Kay gets beaten up a lot, because Kay is the most unpopular guy at King Arthur's court. And so Lancelot feels sorry for him, gets him drunk one night, steals his armor, and then they both ride back to the court of Arthur. And of course, everybody's afraid of Lancelot. He's the best knight in the place. So when Lancelot leaves his armor, Sir Kay, of course, has to wear it because Lancelot gets up early and steals Kay's armor. So Sir Kay rides back to court wearing Lancelot's armor, and everybody thinks it's Lancelot. So all these people surrender to him, and he sends them back to court, and they have to say that they surrendered to Sir Kay, which is pretty embarrassing because everybody knows who Sir Kay is and they hate him, and they think he's just a lousy fighter. Meanwhile, Lancelot rides back to court wearing Sir Kay's armor, and everybody attacks him because they think he's not much of a knight and he's fun to beat up, get some revenge, And, of course, Lancelot pounds them, and he sends them back to court, and he makes them say they surrendered to Sir Kay. So, of course, everybody at court knows something's going on here, and they kind of laugh it off, and they kind of figure it out. But it's a really wonderful example of the sword and shield logic that Lancelot and Kay don't get along at court because Lance is King Arthur's best buddy. Kay is King Arthur's foster brother, and Kay, when they were children, Kay bullied Arthur because they thought he was just an orphan. So when Arthur becomes king, Kay's father falls on his knees and begs Arthur not to punish Kay and begs him to give Kay a reward for being his foster brother. So Arthur makes him kind of his butler, the steward of his court, the seneschal. And it's kind of a mixed blessing. It gives Kay a permanent way to live, place at Arthur's table, but it kind of makes him look like a glorified servant, which is kind of what he did to Arthur when Arthur was his squire. So, bit of fair play there. Anyway, the idea is everybody hates Kay, everybody beats Kay up. Lancelot runs into Kay. He wants to he rescues Kay, actually, and Kay gets mad at him and starts slapping him around, saying, I don't need you to rescue me and all this. And Lancelot begins to understand who Kay is and begins to feel sorry for Kay. So instead of really fighting back, Lancelot just uses his shield. And the whole story is about that when you put your sword down and you don't attack people, you begin to hear their side of the story. You begin to understand why they deserve your empathy. Okay. From all of this, let me tell you the sword and shield. First of all, the shield. When you are dealing with a loved one, a friend, a family member, an ally, you always, always, always pull your shield. You don't use your sword on an ally. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make in their families and among their friends. In short, never treat a friend or an ally like an enemy. Even if they're making a terrible mistake or saying something really awful, pull your shield out and defend yourself. Don't go attacking the people you love. Okay, use your shield. Try to remember they are on your side and you want them as friends. So please use your shield on your allies. Don't pull a sword. Second, using your shield allows you to do one of our strategies, which is if you can't make it better, don't make it worse. Another way to look at that is you're going to be able to walk away. If you use your shield on a loved one when they attack you, you're going to be able to walk away with no injury. Okay? And that's really important, that you don't want to look back and say, I said something terrible to my loved one in a hot moment because we were arguing. That the goal with a loved one is to walk away uninjured. You might feel sad, but you're not hurting anybody. You're not making things worse. The shield is the main tool of a healer because it gives protection without damage. And if you're arguing with a loved one, as odd as it's going to sound, you want healing. You don't want battle. Even though you're hurt emotionally because they're attacking you, even if you're angry, whatever, you're going to keep hiding behind your shield. You're not going to want to attack. You just want protection. This is going to allow for the healing of the problem. When you're doing this, when you're using the shield, what you're saying is your rational mind is at work. And your rational mind is saying, I can do something here better than fight. Okay, so using the shield is actually an act of rationality, of the rational mind. I know I shouldn't fight with this person. I shouldn't hurt them in any way. Now, about using the sword, because you are going to do that sometimes. Never raise your sword to your ally, your friend, your family member. Never raise a sword when you want to keep this person among your allies, okay? Remember that your sword is always used to injure or do harm in some way. It's really important. If you're pulling a sword on somebody, verbally or whatever, you're trying to hurt them. You really need to keep that firmly in your mind. The sword is the main tool of the warrior. So am I saying you should never be a warrior? No. There's a way to use a sword where you simply draw your sword, you don't swing it. That sometimes you do need to show people that you've got a sword. But again, not your allies. And so when you draw your sword, that signals your readiness to attack. And that might be enough to drop that signal. Pulling a sword, whether you just show your sword or use your sword, is actually based on your emotional mind being at work. Your emotional mind is screaming to you, I must act quickly, so fighting is the easiest option. You want to really think about that. That's your emotional mind. Like, I'm in danger, 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 danger. I'm going to pull a weapon and hurt you. I'm going to scare you. Okay? Now, there are times where you do that. It's something you want to be very cautious with. And it's why we're going to come back to interpersonal relations in DBT. But what I'm trying to connect here is you want to use rational mind blended with emotional mind to get wise mind, which means a successful knight is both a healer and a warrior. That's true in Arthurian lit. Yes, it is. Sir Galahad, the most successful. Second most successful, but not quite as good, Sir Percival. Okay, Lancelot is the great warrior, which is why the story of Lancelot and Kay is so significant, because it's the moment Lancelot tries not to be a warrior, tries to think through a problem with more of his rational mind and allows himself to use wise mind and feel compassion for Kay. It's this moment, I would tell you, in Arthurian lit that means Galahad will be the son of Lancelot. That Galahad is the guy who is the ultimate healer in the cycle. Percival's right up there, though. He's kind of wonderful that way. Galahad's a little too good to be true, though. He's a little sanctimonious, but he's an interesting character in many ways. No, I'm not going to talk about Arthurian lit much as I love it. True, it was my first professional publication, but no. Okay, so the idea here, though, in terms of distress tolerance, is to use your shield more than your sword. That when you're hurt, when someone blindsides you and hurts you, you want to reach for your shield. You want to realize that don't make it worse is probably the best idea. This does not mean I don't want you to ever fight back, but you want to be careful because you have to be willing to risk a lot if you're going to pull your sword out. Okay. Okay, so the strategy here is use your wise mind. When you're feeling the need to defend yourself, you want to prefer a shield to a sword. The sword may have its uses, but you've got to be very, very careful. And the idea is you want to go with what keeps you safe and doesn't make things worse. You don't want to run on just emotion and draw a weapon, verbally or otherwise. Let's go to put a lid on it. There's a picture that looks rather nauseating, but it's actually a chaffle. I was home alone one night, and I had to cook fast. And I really didn't have a lot of food around. I realized I had a can of tuna. Saw this recipe on the internet, and it was basically make cheese tacos. That you make the taco shell out of cheese. That I forget how they were doing it. I think they were grilling it flat and then folding it over the handle of a spoon or something. Anyway, I said, why would you do that when you can make a chaffle? But I did adapt the recipe, and it's there in all its gory. The recipe was basically dill pickle, tuna, and mayonnaise on a cheese taco shell. I made a cheese chaffle, which was, what did I do? I did 1 egg and a half cup of shredded cheese mix of cheddar and mozzarella. That made me, I think, 3 mini chaffles in my mini chaffle maker, which I bought at Bed Bath & Beyond for like $20. And then I just took keto mayonnaise, which is mayonnaise made from healthy oil, avocado oil, or olive oil, not from the poisonous oils that they put in normal store-bought mayonnaise. And so I just mixed a can of tuna with about a tablespoon of that, and I chopped up a whole lot of dill pickles because I happen to love dill pickles and they don't have sugar, so I can eat them. And because I'm me, I threw in some lovely keto salsa. So there it is in all its rather drippy glory there. I should have drained that tuna a little better. It was delicious. This leads me to point out, as an Italian, tuna and cheese go together. Okay? They do. If you want a lovely mixture, you drain a can of tuna and you mix it. Oh boy, I haven't made this in years. You fry it with parsley in olive oil with capers and what was the acid? Lemon juice. You put in a healthy amount of lemon juice and a huge amount of Parmesan cheese. Fry that together. That's all you need. I know it sounds odd, but a lot of parsley. Like you treat the parsley like it's broccoli or something, not just a sprinkling. You're throwing in like a full bunch chopped up. Italians have known for years. By the way, I got that off an Italian cooking show way back in the day, back in the 80s. I can't even remember the show. But Italians have known for years that fish and cheese go together really, really well. Particularly a sharp cheese with a little bit of bite, like a Parmesan and a Pecorino. Also in there, LCHF_Italian. She wound up the Stanford Keto Boot Camp. And I grabbed a few last recipes. But right there, she's got her recipe for stracciatella, as we used to call it, stracciatella, a soup. This is what in my family we called Italian chicken egg drop soup. So that's the official recipe. And it was interesting to see. She takes 6 eggs and beats them together with a big generous heaping of grated Parmesan. There's a little bit of lemon zest or nutmeg, interestingly enough, and I believe the juice of 1 lemon. And she gets the soup boiling hot and drops that mix in there, and you can see the results. This is my beloved chicken egg drop soup. I talk about this every winter. This is why you make bone broth, kids. That in the dead of winter, you want to defrost your bone broth, and you want to make this. This is the amazing keto, cold weather lunch, dinner, and snack. You can chop up any green vegetable. If you really shred broccoli, or you chop up spinach very nicely, like mince it up, goes in there brilliantly. You can use cauliflower rice in it. This is kind of the ultimate Italian, cheap and easy. I guess you'd call it Italian ramen if you called it anything, except no carbohydrate. Shoot. Yes, only 4.5 miles this week on the Fit Desk because of what I'll tell you in the blather. I was tired all week, but I did sit down Saturday afternoon. I was going stir crazy. I needed to climb so badly, and I couldn't because I really tired my arms out climbing this week. So Saturday afternoon, I sat down and just strolled along at the Fit Desk while talking to patients. It was how I got through Saturday because my week was very irregular. And then Saturday, last day of the week, blam, full caseload. The rock climbing goes apace. And I have lovely pictures there of myself and my son. You've seen that picture of my butt climbing before. The reason it's in there is I discovered that I have 2 apps that will track my climbing. I did not know this, and I cannot remember who pointed this out to me. Oh, I'm so sorry. Who pointed this out to me? That the iPhone watch actually has the ability to track rock climbing. That you go into the activities, there's a little icon that's in lime green with a running stick figure. You go to that and you can actually select climbing. So I've been selecting climbing to get that to measure on my watch because I want the rings to complete on my watch. And it's great. Also, I use the Runtastic app, which is now called Adidas Running. What's the other one? Runkeeper was the original great running app, and I just got to Runtastic first. They're both perfectly good. And I'm sure Runkeeper does this too. But Runtastic, you go into it and under progress, you can manually enter any other activity that you didn't trace in real time. So I've been going in there and entering the rock climbing. And so I put the pictures up from Runtastic. What I really like is the second picture is of my son. He is doing something so insanely hard there, although it's hard to see. What he's doing is he's got his hand on this big yellow handhold, his left hand, and it's around a corner where the wall changes, and it's hard to see in the picture, from 45 degrees slanting away from you as you stand on the floor. And then the wall changes to 90 degrees perpendicular to the floor. So your legs are at 45 degrees and you have to press uphill to hold them onto the leg positions on the wall because you're at 45 degrees. Your legs want to swing straight to 90 degrees, perpendicular to the floor. It takes tremendous strength to hold your legs in that position. I really can't do it on a boulder at this point. I can do it somewhat on a belaying wall, but I fell off today in quite a humorous way, really. And so it takes a lot of strength. And there's my son. And he's really reaching around to those yellow grips to go around this 45-degree angle. So when he gets on the yellow grips, his arms are now at 90 degrees, perpendicular to the floor. His legs were at 45 degrees. So he did the really gutsy thing. A lot of people will keep holding on with their legs, keep pressing them uphill. It takes a lot of strength. Or you can let go of your legs and hang from your hands. There's 2 problems with that. One, you've got to take the whole weight of your body on your 2 hands. You better have a good grip and you better have strong arms. 2, when you let your legs fall straight, they get momentum. So you tend to swing out away from the wall. You don't just fall to 90 degrees. You tend to swing out a little more and then swing back. So it takes a lot of strength to do this. So there's my beloved son showing me why he is always going to be a better athlete than me. But I was so impressed with this, so I put him on my rock climbing picture today. Fluffy books. I finished A Fiancé's Guide to First Wives and Murder. And I don't know if she's going to write more or not in the series. Again, these are the people who talk like 20th century people and do all sorts of things Victorians would never do. And I really did enjoy this in the end. I mean, I enjoyed it enough to read 4 books in the series. The books are all on Kindle, and they have recordings. Now, I have to tell you, on Audible, the woman who reads them with this really flat nasal American accent, I really hate her style. I almost never say that about Audible books. So to be honest, I found her style of delivery so unpleasant that I was listening to the books. I asked Alexa to read them to me as I was knitting, and I was having her read them from the Kindle narration, which is just the Kindle flat voice reading it, not a narrator. I like the Kindle voice, which is lousy on inflection, better than the reader's voice. So if you're going to read the Lady Harley or Countess Harley series, yeah, not so good on Audible. Not so good. Meanwhile, I'm in the middle of 7-Year Witch by Angela Sanders. I'm enjoying this. I'm not sure Angela Sanders knows how to write a mystery. I haven't really researched who she is as a writer. These are very fluffy. They're a little bit meandering. The first one in the series, the last book I read, the ending was kind of weirdly stitched together. This one is a very interesting plot twist, which you kind of see coming, but I give her a lot of credit. It's quite interesting. And so she's learning a few things. Also, she's kind of deepening the idea of the relationship between the protagonist and her books. And that is a lot of fun. A library witch is a lot of fun as ideas go. So I'm enjoying 7-Year Witch, and that's the second book in the series. It's called, I think, Which Way Librarian. Yeah, we really stretched for that title, didn't we? But still, I am definitely enjoying it. Something I really like, this is a tip of the hat to Andrew Knitmore, who showed me these. And there's a link in the show notes, the straight up link. These are basically grip exercising tools. They come in a set for like $12 with a jaw tightener. Why you would want to exercise your jaw, I can't imagine. But what I like is there's several hard rubber rings that you squeeze to tighten your grip. And then there's also these, they look like brass knuckles, except they're made of rubber. You put your fingers through the loops and you expand your hand. You stretch your hand out. I didn't think those were going to be useful. To be honest, I found those very, very helpful. The great thing I learned from these, I got a set, because for $12, why not? They're on Amazon. And I got a set and started using them. I worked out my hands the first day so hard, and this was Friday, that I could not climb very well Friday night. But there's another reason for that too, which is coming up in the blather. It might have been the vaccine. Anyway, I recommend these things. They're nice to have lying around as I'm talking to patients. I will exercise my hands on them. The patients don't see that I'm doing it as far as I can tell. And it's a nice kind of fidget toy while I'm doing therapy, but it's good for my hands. On to the blather. Well, the blather. Let's see. First off, and I've been referring to it obliquely all through this episode, I got my second shingles vaccine, and oh, what a fool I was. I was so worked up about this. I was so tense. The first shingles vaccine, I had abdominal pain and nausea, and it didn't start till about a day after I got the vaccine. And also, I had soreness and swelling at the site of the injection. Okay. Let me tell you, the shingles vax is more painful than COVID vax is because it's not frozen. It doesn't hurt that much, so it's not a big deal. So I got the shingles vax. I said, is it okay that I got a flu vax 2 weeks ago? They were like, yeah. Well, I think, frankly, I had another nurse stupid. I don't think she knew much of anything because she certainly was unwilling to talk about side effects, which really annoyed me. Anyway, thank goodness the doctor's quite good. I like my doctor, but not all the nurses are on the ball in this practice. But I got the second vax, and I got myself very worried about it. I was ready to take the next day off from work, yada, yada, yada. Hey guys, nothing happened. It was great. Now, I actually think something happened, but nothing significant. Thank goodness, no abdominal pain. None of that. That was just first time. I began to realize about 2 days after I got the shot that I'd been vaguely nauseous for a while, that I was waking up nauseous in the morning and drinking my morning standard. I don't usually eat breakfast. I don't eat usually till noon or 1. But my morning standard is a cup of coffee with heavy whipping cream in it. And I was getting nauseous from that too. And I was going to bed kind of nauseous and really struggling with that. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I realized now it's probably the shingles vax. And I also got fatigued. As in, it wasn't unpleasant. I just suddenly, in the middle of the day, would be like, okay, I should cancel my afternoon patients and take a nap. I did finally do that on Friday afternoon. I just could not keep going. At about, what time was that? I guess about 2 o'clock. I just said, I had 2 more patients that I can't do it. I just can't. And I went and laid down for 2 hours. And then I went climbing that night. So, not my most responsible thing, but I needed the break. At any rate, the shingles vaccine, part 2, no problem at all. Part 1 was worse. Both times I had swelling at the injection site, no big shakes. So if you're worrying about a shingles vaccine, get it. I say this because I can't think who told me their mother got the first part and it was so bad she didn't get the second part. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Everybody I know who has had shingles has said you don't want to get shingles. That several of them have had the vaccine, said, yeah, the vaccine kind of kicked my butt, which is too strong for me. I wouldn't say it kicked my butt. It was uncomfortable. The first one was uncomfortable. That's about it. But everybody I know who's had the vaccine and shingles has said, oh, for God's sake, get the vaccine, believe me. So if you're worrying about that, don't. It's a 1-shot deal. Well, it's a 2-shot deal. I don't think I ever have to do it again for the rest of my life. I'm so grateful I got it. Okay, the other thing that happened that on Monday, since I like to really ruin my days, my doctor scheduled these. I really like the new doc. I got rid of Dr. Stupid. And the new doc basically said you need A, B, C, D, and E and start scheduling them all. Bless her. So she scheduled a dilation of my pupils right before the shingles vax. And this is just for checking to make sure my retinas are okay because I have diabetes. As the beloved spouse pointed out, why would they not be? Your sugar is not in the diabetic range. And my doctor loves this. My doctor keeps saying, oh, it's amazing. Your sugar is so great. I'm pretty sure she knows about keto. And again, in their practice, they're not allowed to promote keto, which really annoys me, particularly since one of their urgent care docs over a year ago told me most of the doctors in the practice are on the keto diet. She said the only thing is most of them don't do it for the rest of their lives. They just do it for a short period to lose weight. I can only say I wish I'd had the sense when I was 10 years old to adopt my father's diet for diabetes, which was keto. I don't think I'd even have diabetes right now. However, and the other thing, it's hard. It's hard to avoid the temptations of the modern American diet, which is full of garbage. And now that I do, no regrets. No regrets. But anyway, I've said this over and over. I don't mean to preach at you. The idea is when I get my pupils dilated, I've been known to kick nurses across the room. I have a little trauma around having my eyes handled. And it's from too many eye surgeries when I was a kid with a medical team that were less than caring, shall we say. But it was also the 60s and, kids getting stuff done to them. So what, really? We had to sort of grow up on that one. So I'm over most of that. This isn't something you should hear as like, oh, poor Gemma, But I do worry because when someone touches my eyes, I do tend to have strong reactions. Boy, did I get a good doctor. 10 minutes in and out. She put drops in them and did a few eye tests. I'm not sure what those drops were for. But then she put drops in him again and said, this is going to dilate him, walked out of the room. I got all ready to have a traumatic response and didn't. So that was really great. I mean, instead of 2 really rotten experiences in one day, I ended up going, wow, I got my retinal exam for diabetes done. And she said, yours are going to be probably the most normal, healthy eyes I'm going to see all day. And so that was wonderful. There is no problem with them. And so I have another appointment to go back and, just get prescription work done. So that's really fantastic. So there I am, got my eyes dilated, something I really loathe. don't need it for another year or two. And also probably, since I'm in my 60s, they'll do it every year. Darn it. And then a shingles vax. So that went really, really well. So Minerva gets the last word. I thought in honor of my dilated eyes, I would show you Minerva with dilated eyes. This is something she does that is an annoying habit. And I just realized I forgot to tell you one more thing. So I'll tell you this and I'll go back. Minerva has this habit. When she wants my attention, she jumps on the bed in the middle of the night right next to my head if she can. And then if she can, she'll jump up on the dresser that is much taller than the bed. And then she sits there. Those of you who remember the comic strip Peanuts will remember how Snoopy, the dog, used to do this vulture imitation. That's what Minerva does. And this is a picture of her doing her vulture, where she hangs off the corner of the dresser and stares at you like she's going to pounce. She does not pounce, but this is one of her less joyful habits. So she did that to me at 5 a.m. this morning, which started Eleanor saying, bark, bark, I need to go out, bark, 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 bark. The cat woke you up, you're awake, so I can bark now, bark, 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 bark. Yeah, so there we go. Minerva getting the last word. She's not getting the last word because I'm going to go back and tell you one more nice thing in my blather. But there she is doing the Snoopy vulture thing with dilated pupils. The other nice thing I want to tell you in the blather, I was very flattered with this. The group at Sunnybank, they publish a quarterly little magazine and called The Lookout. And I was surprised because the woman who runs the memorial runs The Lookout. And she said, would you write an article for us, just about a page? Because she said, the theme this year was family reunion. And she said, could you write about it? And I was surprised because I didn't go this year. So I was a little bit surprised she asked. But I sat down and I wrote it. And I have to tell you, it was really a pleasure to just write fiction again and to write it the easiest way you can write it, out of your own knowledge. So I sort of assembled various experiences and wrote this. It was originally, I think, like 3.5 pages and over 1,000 words. And I cut it back and I got it down to about 1.5 pages on Word. What it would be in the format of The Lookout, I think it would be about 1 page. But anyway, I had a tremendous amount of fun writing it. And it was really about how when we go to Sunnybank, we go for the kindness of all our friends. That it's supposed to be to remember the author who lived there, Albert Payson Terhune, but it's gotten a lot bigger. If you go routinely, it becomes about the people that you only see once a year there and all the fun. And it is a lot of doggy fun and a lot of collie fun. And it's also about all the objects that are present in the setting, the graves of Terhune's collies, the graves of Terhune and his wife, for that matter, and also the lily pond and the beautiful bench called the Evening Lookout, where the little journal gets its name, and all the special events that happen that weekend, and just the silly rituals we all have. And it turns out everybody has their own rituals. So I wrote about that, and it was a tremendous amount of fun to write about it. And of course, what I really liked was I got to say at the end of it, my own ritual is I go to visit the grave of the author and his wife, and I take a strand of Eleanor's fur that I have spun and plied into yarn. So one of the last things I do every year at Sunnybank is I go out to the cemetery, which is within an easy run of Sunnybank, and I tie a strand of Eleanor yarn around the cross piece of the big granite cross that marks their graves. And it was really fun to do that. And every year I know I do it. And I know after everybody leaves, a couple people go out and they clean the grave because people put all sorts of stuff. And they put a wreath out there and they'll take it in so it doesn't look all rotted and all that. And I know somebody's cutting that strand of yarn off because I've seen the pictures after they clean the grave. And I know they have to be thinking, is that Gemma? Because I'm the one who's the big proponent of spinning collie fur. And so one of the fun things about writing this article was tipping my hat and saying, yeah, by the way, that's me. And it was very sweet because the editor wrote back to me and said, this is a wonderful article. And then she said, I especially like that little bit about the yarn made from Eleanor's fur. And so I thought it was just this really classy way for her to say, tip of the hat, I now get why there's yarn every year on the tombstone. So I'm pretty happy about that. So I guess you could say Eleanor's getting the last word here. In the meantime, I'm interested to see how the booster shot thing will go. But again, I think it's really important that the CDC and Dr. Fauci, all the medical sources who are trustworthy, are now saying we're in a pandemic of the unvaccinated. It totally escapes me why people are not vaccinated who want to be. I mean, I get that there are people who are anti-vaccine. And I hope they figure this one out before it's too late, frankly. But I'm really mystified by the people who say, I just never got around to it. I understand that may be a cover. That I understand that there are groups who feel that they've been mistreated by the medical establishment and they're suspicious of the vaccine. That's a very different thing from I'm anti-vaccine for that sake. And I sympathize with that. But please, if you're listening to me, if you're within the sound of my voice, no judgment. Whatever is going on there, please get vaccinated, please. And again, I am not on the front lines of this. I am way in the back in terms of healthcare workers. But I think it's really important that you understand that not getting vaccinated affects many more people than you. It affects the grandchildren or the nieces, nephews, kids in your family that you can't be around because you're unsafe for them. It affects the healthcare workers that will have to care for you if you get sick. It puts at risk people you encounter on a casual basis every day. Okay, so please, whatever your reason, get vaccinated, okay? It's okay. Just go get the shot, really. It's not that bad, and I don't really believe anybody's man parts swelled up, okay? I just don't believe it. I'm not even going to go there. I mean, I don't know what the reason is for saying that or why you would believe that. My husband, as the representative male in my life, had several suggestions for how that might have happened. Apart from a COVID vaccine, and the victim got a little confused between what he'd done to get the swollen boy parts. At any rate, no, really, please get your vaccination. Please take pity on the rest of us. Please remember, this is a communal effort. You're not just doing it for yourself. And in the meantime, don't forget to wash your hands, to wear your mask, to observe social distancing as best you can. Because the whole point here is for everybody to stay safe, take care of each other, so I can talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.